After landing the first pick for the 4th time in team history, the Orlando Magic are primed to make a franchise-defining selection on June 23rd. The Magic recorded the 17th best defensive rating in the NBA, but also finished dead last in offensive rating. And with the array of young talent they hold at the guard positions, this may be a match made in heaven.
With the first pick, the Orlando Magic select
PAOLO BANCHERO from Duke University. Orlando gets the best of both worlds here with the best player available and someone who fits their needs perfectly. While BANCHERO isn't perfect defensively, the Magic get the #1 option they're looking for on offense. BANCHERO brings shot creation, a polished postgame, and great playmaking ability. The Oklahoma City Thunder continue with their rebuild as they look to add complementary talent to play alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey. With their backcourt set in stone, Oklahoma should be looking towards adding a frontcourt piece.
With the second pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select
JABARI Smith Jr. from the University of Auburn. Smith brings defensive versatility and much-needed shooting from day one. While Oklahoma will be hoping for him to become an all-star caliber player, JABARI's high floor will be a win regardless. His skill set and size is invaluable, which should have him contributing at a high level for a very long time. But of course, his ability to shoot over defenders and shoot the 3-ball at a high clip projects him to be a building block for Oklahoma. The Houston Rockets are left with the easiest job of any team in the draft. In a consensus 3-player draft, all they have to do is select whoever falls to them. With Jalen Green being the only real franchise player the Rockets have right now, they hope to land another with the 3rd pick.
With the 3rd pick, the Houston Rockets select
CHET Holmgren from the University of Gonzaga. After passing on Evan Mobley last year, the Rockets should be ecstatic to land Holmgren at number 3. He brings a lot of the same things Mobley does, especially on the defensive end. Holmgren likely will play the power forward position early on and could become a versatile offensive weapon and defensive anchor for the Houston Rockets franchise. The Sacramento Kings were lucky enough to move into the top 4 of the draft during the NBA lottery. The Kings are desperate to win now, and they showed it at the deadline last year after trading away young star Tyrese Halliburton for the established all-star Domantas Sabonis. They may explore a trade with the 4th pick to end the playoff drought, but if they decide to keep it, they could swing for the fences.
With the 4th pick, the Sacramento Kings select
Shaedon Sharpe from the University of Kentucky. Despite not playing a single game at Kentucky, a breakout showcase at the Nike EYBL was enough for scouts to buy into the Shaedon Sharpe hype. An elite athlete who flashes some shot-creating abilities has Shaedon drawing comparisons to Jalen Green and Anthony Edwards. He still is one of the bigger mysteries in the draft, but one that could be franchise-altering. The Detroit Pistons are still young into their rebuild and are looking to add the best player available. Cade Cunningham showed why he was the first pick of last year's draft, and Saddiq Bey also had his moments throughout the year. Although the Pistons were disappointed to fall to the 5th pick after finishing with the 3rd best odds, there is a great talent who's still available.
With the 5th pick, the Detroit Pistons select
Jaden Ivey from Purdue University. Detroit lands an explosive and versatile offensive weapon who can grow alongside their young star point guard going forward. While Ivey's defense needs improvement, his scoring on and off the ball as well as his playmaking ability are too good to pass on. After years of being a middle-of-the-pack team, the Indiana Pacers have finally embraced the idea of starting fresh with the youth movement. They traded away Domantas Sabonis for their new franchise point guard Tyrese Halliburton and continued to add on as much young talent as possible.
With the 6th pick, the Indiana Pacers select
Keegan Murray from the University of Iowa. Indiana lands the well-rounded forward from Iowa who brings versatility on both ends. Murray is the obvious selection here. He's the best player available and should be a great fit for just about any team. Keegan should be a good pick-and-roll partner for Tyrese Halliburton to operate with, but also should find his own offense whether it be off the dribble or out in transition. The Portland Trailblazers seem to be in a state of no true direction. After trading away CJ McCollum and Norman Powell, they seem to be ready to start fresh. However, the team has made it known that they plan on keeping Damian Lillard in Portland. They will have to make decisions on the free agency of Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic, but they could use this pick to draft a potential replacement.
With the 7th pick, the Portland Trail Blazers select
Jalen Duren from the University of Memphis. Portland lands the high-motor big man from Memphis, Jalen Duren. His incredible leaping ability and defensive potential, along with his untapped offensive game, may have Portland believing they have found their new starting center. Drafting Duren would be a move for both the short and long term. His strength, rebounding, and vertical spacing will translate immediately, but Duren still has all the tools to become something much greater down the line. The New Orleans Pelicans are the only team with the lottery pick who actually made the playoffs. After trading for CJ McCollum and a highly anticipated return from Zion Williamson, the Pelicans have their sights on making another postseason push next year.
With the 8th pick, the New Orleans Pelicans select
Dyson Daniels from the G League Ignite. As great as the Pelicans were towards the end of the year, there was always one glaring weakness: perimeter defense. Daniels brings great perimeter defense and playmaking. The Pelicans aren't looking for another primary scorer. Bringing in a player like Daniels as a glue guy who makes the right plays just helps you win games. The San Antonio Spurs find themselves in the lottery again as they try to get back to their winning ways. The emergence of DeJounte Murray and Jakob Poeltl were a pleasant surprise for the Spurs. They do have a lot of other young pieces, but they are still searching for their go-to guy.
With the 9th pick, the San Antonio Spurs select
Johnny Davis from the University of Wisconsin. Despite having a rough end to the season, Davis was electric for the Badgers. His shot creation and toughness could have him become the #1 option for a team. He's a much better shooter than the percentages would suggest, and he brings his competitive nature on the defensive end. If it wasn't for the rough end to his season, he likely would be getting drafted a lot higher. Despite desperately needing a starting point guard, the Washington Wizards are in no place to draft for fit rather than the best player available. They still need to decide what their future with Bradley Beal will look like, but in terms of the draft, their priority should be adding talent.
With the 10th pick, the Washington Wizards select
Jeremy Sohan from Baylor University. The Wizards do have a bit of a logjam at the power forward position. However, I believe Jeremy Sohan is too good to pass on. Adding Sohan immediately raises the defensive floor for the Wizards team. In a front court of Obvious, Sohan and Gafford could be a really solid defensive squad. Another team desperate for a starting point guard is the New York Knicks. Between the uncertainties of Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, and Kemba Walker, the New York Knicks have a lot on their plate and should just focus on taking the best talent available.
With the 11th pick, the New York Knicks select
AJ Griffin from Duke University. The Knicks should be thrilled about landing a talent like Griffin at number 11. He had a good season for the Blue Devils as he showcased his efficient jumper and smooth handle. If he's able to stay healthy, Griffin could outplay this draft position and would be a great fit alongside RJ Barrett. The Oklahoma City Thunder are back on the clock and continue to add more talent to their young roster.
With the 12th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select
BENNEDICT MATHURIN from the University of Arizona. A great value pick for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Mathurin is an athletic wing who can shoot the lights out. He's also shown some shot creating ability off the dribble, and the Thunder could utilize him in a variety of ways. His three-point shot seems reliable enough for Mathurin to be a floor spacer at his very worst. The Charlotte Hornets have been looking for a center for what feels like decades. They were one of the most exciting teams due to their fast pace and highlight reel dunks. However, their lack of defense is what held them out of the postseason.
With the 13th pick, the Charlotte Hornets select
Mark Williams from Duke University. The Hornets fill two needs with one selection here. Williams is a great shot blocker and an active big man who can run the floor alongside LaMelo. He gives the Hornets what they've been looking for as a versatile defending, rebounding, and vertical spacing big man. The Cleveland Cavaliers round out the lottery with the 14th pick. What seemed to be a surefire playoff berth somehow fell through for Cleveland as they find themselves back in the lottery. Missing the postseason doesn't take away from the massive strides they made as a team, however. Cleveland should be looking to add some bench scoring.
With the 14th pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers select
Malaki Branham from Ohio State University. Despite trading for KESLER at the trade deadline, Cleveland can draft his protege Malaki Branham. He can bring a scoring punch and secondary ball handling off the bench for Cleveland. His defensive woes shouldn't be too big of an issue as he has two of the best defending big men behind him. The Charlotte Hornets are back on the clock for the 15th pick. After securing their precious center, they can look towards the best player available.
With the 15th pick, the Charlotte Hornets select
TYTY Washington from the University of Kentucky. The Hornets get a backup combo guard who does a lot of things well. I believe he's a better shooter than the numbers suggest as well as a better playmaker. He can play both on and off the ball next to LaMelo or Rozier and give Charlotte a very good three-guard rotation. With no real free agency worries, the Hawks have no real position of need. The Atlanta Hawks will look to find Trae Young the most help they can. There is a player left who can step in from day one and make an immediate impact for his team.
With the 16th pick, the Atlanta Hawks select
Ochai Agbaji from the University of Kansas. After finishing his college career with a championship, Agbaji looks towards the next chapter in his basketball career. Coming into a team like the Atlanta Hawks would be the ideal situation. He will be looked at as an athletic 3-and-D wing who helps his team win, a similar role to Kevin Huerter and DeAndre Hunter. The Houston Rockets come back to make their next selection at the 17th pick. After drafting Chet Holmgren, the Houston Rockets can afford to swing for the fences with a longer-term project who could become something special.
With the 17th pick, the Houston Rockets select
Ousmane Dieng from the New Zealand Breakers. After a rough start to his season, Dieng was being looked at as a second-round pick, but as the year progressed, so did he. He found a lot more success with his jump shot as well as his overall offensive game. While still a raw talent, Dieng is a good defender right now, but will take some time before he can contribute to a team's success. As for the Houston Rockets, the selection makes sense as they continue to try to pack on as much talent as they can to assist their rebuild. The Chicago Bulls had one of their best seasons in quite some time, but with hardly any defense, they struggled when it mattered most. Their lack of a backup center was also on display as they tried to fill the void with Tristan Thompson. Injuries and the impending free agency of Zach LaVine has caused some serious concern in Chicago. With so many holes in their personnel, who will they draft?
With the 18th pick, the Chicago Bulls select
Walker Kessler from the University of Auburn. The Chicago Bulls address the backup big man situation as well as their defensive problems. Kessler is one of the best defenders in the draft and brings elite rim protection, overall interior defense, and criminally underrated perimeter defense. With how great I believe Kessler could be defensively, I wouldn't be surprised to see him take over the starting role within the season. The Minnesota Timberwolves are coming off an impressive season as well. The addition of Patrick Beverley has seemed to instill a culture shift within the franchise. Minnesota is likely looking towards adding some depth at the wing position.
With the 19th pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves select
MARJON BEAUCHAMP from the G League Ignite. The Timberwolves add a versatile offensive weapon who can come off the bench and provide a spark. He's had to fight and claw to where he is today, something that fits right into the culture the Timberwolves are trying to establish. He's NBA ready and a complementary piece who could fit right into the role that Taurean Prince was previously playing. The San Antonio Spurs come back for their second first-round pick of the night. Continuing on a mission to add the most young talent possible, the Spurs should look to take the best player available.
With the 20th pick, the San Antonio Spurs select
TARI EASON from Louisiana State University. San Antonio lands a much-needed versatile power forward who projects to be a good defender and intriguing offensive weapon with a nice handle. San Antonio should feel great about this pick, considering they were able to fill a team need while selecting the best player available. The Denver Nuggets, despite dealing with the countless number of major injuries to their top players, were still able to secure themselves a playoff spot. They finished as the 6th best offense in the league, which should only improve with the returns of Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. However, they finished 15th in defensive rating, which may take a hit considering the lack of defense coming from those two returning star players.
With the 21st pick, the Denver Nuggets select
TREVOR KEELS from Duke University. The Nuggets secure one of the better defenders in this year's class. KEELS had an up and down season but remains as one of the more intriguing prospects. His size and physicality at the shooting guard position is reminiscent of Marcus Smart. KEELS does possess some potential out of the pick and roll, but focusing on defending the perimeter and improving his outside jumper would help both him and the Nuggets greatly. The Memphis Grizzlies were the biggest surprise of the 2021 season. With Ja Morant becoming a superstar and the leap from Desmond Bane, it's only up from here for the Grizzlies. Re-signing Tyus Jones should be a priority this offseason for Memphis, and adding more talent to this group who can take time developing in the background is likely the best route Memphis can take.
With the 22nd pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select
NIKOLA Jovic from Megabasket by way of Serbia. Memphis adds a wing who possesses guard-like skills. Much like Zaire Williams, Jovic can take his time developing and working his way into the rotation. His jumper was disappointing at times, but he has all the tools to become a reliable shooter. I imagine him in a similar role to Nemanja Bjelica, a playmaking forward who stretches the floor. He's a sneaky good athlete, but definitely needs to improve on the defensive end. The Philadelphia 76ers received this pick back from the Brooklyn Nets and will instead lose their pick next year. Philadelphia is expected to explore a trade with Tobias Harris, leaving an opening at the power forward position. And as the 76ers search for NBA-ready talent to help push for a championship run, there may be somebody who fits both needs.
With the 23rd pick, the Philadelphia 76ers select
E.J. Liddell from Ohio State University. The 76ers essentially land a younger Paul Millsap. E.J. brings defensive versatility, elite shot blocking, and a viable three-point jumper. Liddell will be able to contribute from day one for Philadelphia and should be an important rotational piece. With Bobby Portis likely declining his player option and Brook Lopez dealing with injuries, the Milwaukee Bucks have a real need for a center. However, there is still a talent left that may be too good to pass on this late in the draft.
With the 24th pick, the Milwaukee Bucks select
Jaden Hardy from the G League Ignite. Despite having plenty of talent at the shooting guard position, Jaden Hardy is a great value selection at this point in the draft. He reminds me a lot of Tim Hardaway Jr. and should be able to carve out a similar career path. Milwaukee should be able to find a center whether it be in free agency or via trade. San Antonio is back with their third and final first-round pick in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised to see them explore a trade with one of these three picks, but if they decide to hold on to them, they should continue adding talent from the best players available.
With the 25th pick, the San Antonio Spurs select
Jalen Williams from the University of Santa Clara. One of, if not the biggest riser throughout the draft process. Jalen Williams brings great size, ball handling skills, and a smooth jumper. He showed off his athleticism throughout the season as well as a memorable highlight dunk at the draft combine. San Antonio gets another dynamic prospect who they can mold to fit any role they need. The Dallas Mavericks have a lot of problems that need to be addressed. They are in desperate need of a center with good size. They also need to figure out what they will do with the free agency of Jalen Brunson. And the Western Conference Finals would have you hoping they could find some more reliable shooters. The question is, which problem will they address?
With the 26th pick, the Dallas Mavericks select
Christian KOLOKO from the University of Arizona. Dallas opts for the big man from Arizona to fill their vacant center position. KOLOKO provides rim protection, rebounding, and vertical spacing. He's a legitimate 7-footer who could be a great role man for Luka Doncic. The Miami Heat showed off their tough Miami culture, pushing the Boston Celtics to a competitive Game 7 before ultimately falling short in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat have a track record for finding hidden gems within the draft and developing them to be much greater than anyone expected.
With the 27th pick, the Miami Heat select
Patrick Baldwin Jr. from the University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Calling Baldwin a hidden gem is quite the stretch, but he did have a disappointing freshman season which was prematurely ended with injuries. He was being looked at as a potential top 5 selection prior to the season starting, but after posting inefficient numbers, he may find himself at the back end of the first round. Miami gets a guy who we know is a much better shooter and overall player than the numbers suggest. If Miami is able to bring the best out of Baldwin, we may look back at this draft and ask ourselves how he fell this low. The Golden State Warriors are back and better than ever. Their roster is so deep and talented that they have struggled to find minutes for both of their lottery picks from the 2021 draft. They do have some free agents that they need to re-sign, most notably Kevon Looney, Otto Porter Jr., and Gary Payton II. However, it doesn't seem too likely they'll be able to bring back all three, leaving the Warriors searching for the next generation of those players.
With the 28th pick, the Golden State Warriors select
DALEN TARI from the University of Arizona. Golden State gets a bigger version of Gary Payton II here with a lot more upside. He's a freak athlete and a big lengthy guard with tons of defensive potential. If Payton decides to leave elsewhere, the Warriors can mold Terry to fit the vacant role. DALEN brings that competitive fire and is a great overall teammate. In other words, he fits right into the Golden State culture. The Memphis Grizzlies are back on the clock with their second first-round pick. After adding NIKOLA Jovic with the last selection, they could look to add a player who can make an immediate impact.
with the 29th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select
Wendell Moore Jr. from Duke University. The Memphis Grizzlies get a great perimeter defender who brings a lot of value offensively as well. Moore brings playmaking, athleticism, and a decent three-point shot, as well as being a great teammate and glue guy who fits right into what they're building. The Oklahoma City Thunder have the final pick of the first round. As they continue to add more young talent, it's been rumored they may have made a promise to a player with this selection.
With the 30th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select
Caleb Houston from the University of Michigan. Coming into the season, Houston was viewed as a top 10 prospect, but as he struggled to find his shot and struggled around the rim, his stock slowly regressed. However, Houston declined to participate in the draft combine, indicating a draft promise. It's been rumored that Oklahoma was the team who gave it to him, and it makes sense. They can afford to take these risks since they hold so much draft capital. The upside is a starting level 3-and-D wing with prototypical size who can flourish alongside your other stars. That concludes the first round. While I won't go over the players in the second round, you can see where I have them all headed respectively. As for the undrafted prospects who didn't make the cut, I feel these are the most notable ones and all should find themselves earning two-way deals or international contracts. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to join the Draft Media family.